You find yourself at times feeling overwhelmed with everything that you need to read, from the books, the magazines, the articles, the agreements, and let's not forget emails. Well, if your answer is yes, please continue to listen, for this may be for you. I cannot remember how many times I have had that feeling when somebody recommends a book or even gifts me with a book, and I find myself thinking, oh, let me add it to my list. In almost every room of my home, there are books I'm working on reading or want to read. And I have to admit, another book to read, I need like a hole in the head. Can you relate? Please understand, I love the value we get from reading. And I find myself constantly reading, upgrading my skills, learning new technologies so that I can serve you better. For my personal development, spiritual development. How about you? The list just goes on. And again, like I said, what about all those emails? So when I hear people say, I just want to curl up with a good book, I have to admit, I don't relate to that. I can think of so many more things I'd like to do and curl up with than a good book. So what I'm leading up to here is, if you could read twice as fast as you do currently, let alone 3, maybe 4 times faster, could you see the value in that? Would that help? Well, of course, the obvious answer is yes. You get that much more done in less time. But Ken, how about, am I going to comprehend, understand, and recall what I've read so much faster? Good question. An even better question is, what about making connections in your brain? Reading is a very, very, very important part of our lives for the health of our brain, yes, for the knowledge we can get, learning, the skills to move ahead, to move forward in our lives. And yet, for many of us, too many of us, it can be such a challenging task. So I have an exciting announcement to make. And the announcement is, I've just put online for the first time a workshop that I created way back in 1980 called PowerLearning. And it's something I think, actually I really believe you'll find it of great value if you're feeling overwhelmed with all the reading. So for example, there are so many myths around reading. You read on contracts, agreements, or forms. Read this slowly and carefully. Big myth. Fact of the matter is, all the science shows and all the studies show, the slower you read, the worse your comprehension and the worse your recall. And in fact, usually when people fatigue from reading and pretty quickly, or their eyes feel heavy, it's because they're what? Reading too slow. That's right. So there are many myths around this. And if I read so fast, I'm not going to remember it, or I won't be able to make the connections I want to make with understanding it. Again, a myth. Many myths that I'd like to dispel for you, and will, in this program called PowerLearning. I'd like to just tell you, though, a few things about me and why I'm doing this. If you've been following my work in the Silva Method, or if you've actually been through classes training with me, you know that my passion is really about awakening human potential. And especially as it relates to intuition, developing our intuition so you can make better, wiser decisions in life. A big passion of mine is taking command of life, having a degree of life mastery so we navigate it with grace and ease and in flow. So how in the world does that relate to reading? Well, again, think about it. Reading is a tool that we use to get knowledge, to get information, to build on those skills, to build competencies through the development of more skills, which helps us to move forward in our lives, in our career, in our spiritual development. And it has so much to do with human potential, because when we look at the studies between what the capacity is, the potential of the brain is in taking in words per minute, whether they be spoken words or reading. There's a huge, and I mean huge, gap between what the eyes can do physically and what the brain can do. And that's an area where I can help you to narrow that gap with some tools. So a big reason why I'm here is it's kind of selfish reasons. If you know my story and you remember, way back when I was a college student in 1971, well, just before 1971 I started, even though I had all the background and all the skills with advanced math and sciences in high school, when I went to engineering school at Boston University, I was failing, I was flunking out. After a year of that, I switched to a much easier curriculum, typically business administration. And it didn't get much better, it hardly got better at all. So obviously something was wrong with me. And I discovered the Silva Method through a friend and learned how to learn. In fact, a big part of the Silva Method is teaching people how to learn, how to accelerate learning by accessing the alpha and theta dimensions of mind, by lowering brain waves to learn faster and easier. Well, I learned that technique, I applied it. This is in May of 1971, went back to school in September. I never looked back because my grades went from failing to B average, which is very cool, isn't it? Big, huge jump. And I was studying less, but I did do all the work. I then became a full-time instructor. I was teaching in the evenings, teaching on the weekends, and going to school during the day, and I had courses to make up that I had failed in the first and second year. And meanwhile, my grade point average went up, climbed to 3.8, nearly straight A's. I graduated cum laude, and I was studying less. I did do the work, and I did study, but I needed so much less repetition. It was such a godsend and so helped, and I'd like to help you do the same thing. So it's become a specialty for me in understanding how we learn and what are some of the things we can do to learn faster, to learn easier, to not get overwhelmed. And one of them is you got to stay calm and relaxed and not worry and avoid getting into what some call performance anxiety about testing, studying, etc. So here I am in the 70s into the late 70s, still kind of, I admit, struggling with reading, not getting to all that I wanted to because I was such a freaking slow reader. I remember the very first book I read when I got on this path, because I wasn't much of a reader prior to 71, was there's a huge list, a big list of recommended and required reading. And this book got to me because it was less than 160-something pages, 68 pages as I remember. It's called The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe by Glenn Clark, a very short biographical sketch on Walter Russell. Little did I know the impact this book would have on me in my life. Because at first I thought I was reading it, I was attracted to it because it was so short. Many of the pages had pictures and it was part of the numbered sequence. So, it's my kind of book. So it really kind of got me going into appreciating the value, the inspiration, the lessons to learn through reading. And yet with that, as time went by, as I said, it was a challenge. So here it is, fast forward to about 1980, and some friends of mine who used to teach the Silva program put together a program they told me about called Relaxed Speed Reading. I never took a speed reading program, wasn't interested, and maybe you have, but I like that approach because relaxation is a key in being able to, if you're stressed, you're not going to learn. If you're stressed, you're going to affect memory. Well, anyway, my wife and I both took it. We loved it. We got good value. I was able to increase my reading speed quite a bit. I more than doubled my speed. And for a short period of time, I was an instructor of the program. However, because of my passion, my interest in Silva, I let it go. And in that same year, in 1980, we put together a workshop for Silva graduates, my wife Barbara and I. And I began to offer it primarily in New England, here where I teach. But then in 1984, when everything changed for me in my career as a Silva instructor, when the man himself, the founder, Jose Silva, brought me in on the staff, his elite staff, to train instructors, to travel the world, to create advanced programs. There were only 4 people in the world. He was one of them, the founder, and I became one of them. Wow, such a blessing. I feel such gratitude for that. And I took that workshop with me, and I have all around the world, even working with translators, and people loved it. Sometimes we had hundreds that were constantly sold out, and I'd come back and do it again. And I have to tell you, to this day, I get comments on social media or occasional emails. People reach out to me and say, I haven't seen you, in a while, Ken, but I got to tell you, that course you taught, I still use it. It got me through law school. It got me through medical school. It helped me to, or people tell me, it helped me to just keep up with all the rapid changes in my work and my business, let alone the students that helped change the way they get through school so much easier. Such an inspiration. And I remember that. However, full disclosure here, I kind of let it go, and more than a decade went by because I was so caught up in working with the Silva program and the Silva team and different things that just monopolized my time. And early in 2021, a good friend of mine, Janine Shaka from Australia, the Silva instructor there, contacted me and said, could you please, I've got people wanting this workshop, could you present it virtually to us? Well, I had already offered virtually the Silva program, but I didn't know. I said, well, okay, let's give it a shot. Well, she had people in her center. We had people on the Zoom screen. It was sold out. People loved it. They raved about it. They so inspired me with what we did and what they accomplished that I said, here I am saying, I got to put this online and make it available to people. In fact, I was encouraged by them to do so. And just to give you an idea, no sensationalism here. And I don't want to embellish it, but realistically speaking, very commonly over the decades, people have at least 1.5 times their reading speed that very time upon completion of the workshop. Meaning we do a self-assessment. You do a self-assessment before we begin the program. Then we go through, develop the technique, and the last thing you do is by using the technique, the PowerLearning technique, another assessment. And if people follow the instructions, I can carefully, easily, honestly say everybody at least 1.5 times faster with comprehension, recall, and understanding and connection. Better than usual. A good many people at least twice as much. Some people 3 times, 4 times, and that's just that at the end of the workshop. So I can tell you in good conscience that how much you improve depends on you. It'll take practice. It's not a quick fix. 5 minutes a day, some techniques I'm going to give you, which is basically re-educating your brain, re-educating your eyes in particular, and retraining your eyes. You can go more than 30 days if you want to really, ramp it up. That's up to you as a skill for that. So you have really a lot to look forward to, and I hope you take me up on it. I've got a pre-launch. I haven't really done anything officially launching it, so I wanted to put out this video to announce it to you. And somewhere at the bottom of this video, there's a link. You can click onto it, find out even more. And I'd like to encourage you, please, check it out for yourself. Find out. It's a very cool, very practical workshop. And I look forward to seeing you on the inside and hearing your comments. And until the next time, thank you.